Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
It is Tuesday. And by the way, Archie Baines will join us at 11:15.
11:15. There you go.
Yeah.
No snow day.
Thursday it is. Did I say Tuesday? I'm all confused today.
Because of the snow day.
Leafs are in Edmonton tonight. It's Tuesday. Today's guest brought to you by the Vancouver Giants. This Sunday, the G-Men return to the LEC to take on Kelowna in a matinee. Puck drop is at 2 p.m. Visit vancouvergiants.com/tickets for ticket details. I'm gun shy now. We got Farhan? Okay. Farhan Lalji joins us now from TSN, some BC Lions news. Farhan worked the Dolphins and Chiefs game last weekend when he wasn't tweeting out show promos. Farhan joining us now.
Very strong. Very good.
Very inside.
Not happy, by the way. But anyways.
Hey, look, I called everybody. I apologized. I kissed the ring, all those things.
Yeah.
Hey, we kid because we love, right?
I hear you. I love back.
Chiefs, let's start here. We'll get to the Lions in a second. Chiefs win over Miami last weekend, so Casey's at Buffalo this Sunday. From what you saw of the Chiefs, are they capable of another Super Bowl title or Super Bowl run?
Yeah, I think they are. It's not going to be easy. Their defense is very good. They're as impressive as any Ds that I've seen thus far as the teams remaining. Look, Baltimore is really good. San Francisco is really good. But I think Kansas City defensively is as good as those teams. The question is, can they find some receiving help, right? Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes. The line has its moments, right? They're slowly getting healthy. Kelsey's had a few too many drops for my liking, but I think he's still going to be that guy. Rashee Rice has been very good at receiver, and that's it, right? Their running backs are good, but in terms of a receiving option on the outside, other than Rashee Rice, there is nothing there. So can they find some secondary offensive options? Like last year, Kadarius Toney got good in the playoffs, and Sky Moore became a factor in the playoffs, and so they were able to kind of mask over not having Tyreek Hill and get it figured out. I don't know that it's going to be that easy for them offensively, but defensively, they're so much better than they've been in the past. So I like what they have to offer. I think it's going to be a great game with them in Buffalo. It's just a case of whether or not they can slow down Josh Allen running the football. I think they can handle everything else.
Yeah, that's just tremendous to watch, him running the football. So Dan Quinn, I don't know what happened to his value in terms of the possibility of him rejoining the Seahawks as head coach, but Dallas's defense, no aspect of their team looked good against the Packers. But we're hearing Jim Harbaugh, we're hearing Dan Quinn, others, Mike Vrabel for one. Who's the best fit as the Seahawks' next head coach?
Yeah, it's a good question. I've always been of the ilk that I'd love to see them bring back some modern offensive football, and I think they need to go in that direction. And none of those candidates necessarily offer that, because even Jim Harbaugh, love him or hate him as a coach, his offensive philosophy is very conservative, and it's very run-based, which is kind of what they got now, except they're not good at running the ball. So, if it was me, I would probably take Mike Vrabel, quite honestly, right? I mean, Dan Quinn had his moments in Atlanta as a head coach, certainly did not look good in Dallas in that last game. It's a team that's had struggled in terms of coaching as far as game management and clock management. I don't know how much Dan's involved in that, but that staff hasn't been perfect. I think Mike Vrabel kind of got the short end of the stick based on what the roster was looking like and where they were going in terms of direction in Tennessee. We're used to seeing them near the top of their division. They're not, but when you look at their roster and how young they are in certain positions, they kind of shouldn't be, right? So I think of the three names you've mentioned, in my opinion, I think Mike Vrabel is the best head coach. And if that was my choice, I would probably pick him. But I know there's some young offensive minds that they're also looking at. Everybody's looking at, the next guy out of that Shanahan tree, right? Whether it's a guy like McVay or LaFleur or any one of those guys, even McDaniel, who obviously hasn't done it well again in playoffs or against great opponents, but his offense is sexy to watch. So I'd prefer they go that way. But if they go defense or conservative, I think Mike Vrabel is really good. He's a good culture builder too.
All right, let's talk football. BC Lions, some big signings this week.
Rick, we have been talking football.
Where have you been the last 5 minutes?
You were talking about Seahawks.
You said, let's talk football.
I said football, BC Lions.
We're talking about the Chiefs? Okay, there you go.
I'm talking BC Lions stuff. You got a hearing problem? You want me to get you a hearing aid?
CFL.
Listen, CFL. Oh, you got one.
There you go.
Okay. Listen, Lions signed 3 big receivers this week. Keon Hatcher, Javon Katoy, and Alexander Hollins, but they had to let Dominic Rhymes go, and that was a salary cap situation. As you reported, he signed in Ottawa today, but they kept the bulk of the receivers. That's still the best receiving corps for me in the CFL, but they did some good work keeping those 3 guys for him.
Yeah, they did, and they were all due raises, and you knew they were going to get them. The hard part is you're not just losing Rhymes, you're losing Rhymes and Hatcher for probably 2/3 of a season, right?
Yeah.
So you've got to replace that, because when you look at how this team looked a year ago, they never had them all together, right? I mean, I think there were 2 regular season games where all of them played together. So, they can still be effective -1. Can they be effective -2? Now, they've got Travis Fulgham, who's played in the NFL, played with the Eagles, and I think is going to be a really, really good addition to that team and can be one of their, certainly one of their starting receivers and help them operate at a pretty high level until Hatcher gets back into the lineup. And then you've also got Justin McInnis, who's under contract for the year. We're not talking about him, and he had such a great season for this team. So, they're probably going to need to go out and get another Canadian to back up Katoy and McInnis, who will be full-time locked-in starters, right? So, we'll see how Fulgham adjusts to the Canadian game, but he's certainly got a lot of pedigree and has done some good things at an NFL level. So I'm excited to see what he could bring, but it was going to be work, and I would expect that Lucky Whitehead's not back. I don't know that for sure. I don't think that's done. They'll probably have a few more conversations, but it sounds like based on, just the injuries, and he hasn't been the same the last couple of years because of those injuries, that, they might feel that Lucky's best before date is behind him and move on there as well. So, so we'll see, and hopefully Hatcher gets back sooner than later.
All right, the Pedersen contract talk, it's not going to stop, Farhan, until he signs. And as it lingers, you're going to hear more rumors and more shoddy reporting. But what I will say to you, I could see the Canucks wanting to do this yesterday, but he's taking his leisurely time, and I've been told everyone's just going to have to wait until he makes up his mind.
Yeah, well, you're right. And I think we've all been told the same thing, and I think people are frustrated at that. And it's funny because when, I put a report out on it yesterday and, nothing different than what we're talking about right now. And, I think Thomas Drance wrote an article about how he's not worried about it any longer because this is just the way it's going to be. And the ramifications in the CBA of what options he does or doesn't have. And, I get some people saying, yeah, see, we don't care. We're not worried about it. Just you and the media are worried about it. And then the majority of responses are like, yeah, we're worried about it. So, one of the things that Patrick Alvin has said in some reports in the last week is that, they're not necessarily using the word concern, but if you read around it or read between the lines, I think there is some concern, and not necessarily about whether or not Pedersen's going to sign, but the uncertainty impacts them. Because if you're going to go into the trade deadline and you decide you want to be a buyer, this will change whether or not you're only going to bring in a rental or a player that has term, right? Because depending on what that term is and what the dollars are in subsequent years, if you don't know what you're paying Pedersen, how do you legitimately make that trade? So it is going to impact the Canucks this season. And I think they want to know, because the fact that they're not even negotiating and they're winning, right? Because everybody knows Pedersen wanted to play for a winner. This team is winning at a pretty impressive clip. We don't know what it's going to look like in the playoffs, but right now it's pretty good. So why wouldn't you negotiate now? I mean, a lot of questions have been answered. If you're Pedersen, shouldn't you have faith in what you're seeing from this management team in terms of their ability to address needs? Shouldn't you have faith in this coaching staff? And enough to at least get to the point of, okay, let's start active negotiations. Because I think you and I both feel, Rick, that financially, there's not going to be a hurdle here. The Canucks are going to pay top of market value.
They're going to have to pay over $12 million, and they know it. They know it. As of right now,
and they're prepared to. And they're prepared to.
Yeah.
So what are we talking about here? The team's winning. They're prepared to pay the money. Why are we holding back?
It's his choice. He wants to wait. So guess what? Everyone's
going to wait. But then you can't blame people for then reading between the lines and saying, well, why is he waiting? Does he truly want to be here? Yeah. Right? Players have the power now.
Yeah.
So, fans have a right to wonder if he wants to be here long term. And I'm not reporting here saying he doesn't, but I'm just saying you can't blame people for when there's an information vacuum, people try to fill it, and we're halfway through a season now.
Yeah.
Where are you this weekend?
At home, actually. I don't have plans to be at a playoff game. I will be at one of the conference finals, depending on who's hosting, and then of course Super Bowl. But I'm going to enjoy the snow here.
Yeah. Well, if you need any advice on how to get to work on a snowy Wednesday, don't ask us.
Yeah.
I tried to drive. I told Hendo that I wasn't sure if I was going to be like audio only, and I tried to drive and I got stuck this morning, just on some of the main roads to get to the highway. If I could have just made it to the highway, life would have been easy. But I turned around and came back and said sorry.
You've got company there. Next week. Thanks, Farhan.
See you, boys.